We are going to do a demo of installing an IBM Cloud Pack for data using Robin storage. So as a pre-requirement, we need to have the OpenShift running, for which basically will be used to install Cloud Pack for data. So this is the link where a user can go ahead and plan for the cluster. This is the architecture of how the Cloud Pack data gets deployed. So for that you need an OpenShift cluster with three master or infra node and three or more worker node. So here a user can go through all the requirement that is needed uh, for the OpenShift cluster, and also make sure that so these are the different OpenShift versions that is available today for deploying Cloud Pack for data, and the compatibility matrix is shown here. On top of this, we also need to make sure that the internal registry server is set up correctly so that it can hold all the images that is required for the Cloud Pack for data. Okay, so you can go through this documentation and then set up the OpenShift cluster. Here I have set up uh, my OpenShift cluster, which is on version 4.6, and it is currently running on AWS Cloud, and I have three master nodes and three worker nodes running 4.6, which is Kubernetes 1.19. Now that our OpenShift cluster is up and running, we need to install Robin Cloud Native Storage, which is also we call Robin CNS. To download the bits for Robin CNS, you go to get.robin.io and you log in and go to download button, and here you pick your corresponding OpenShift version and the environment. For an example, here I have OpenShift version running on an AWS cloud, so I will pick this and then follow the direction to get the direct install files. Basically you download this tar file, and I have downloaded it here and I have all the bits here. Now once you have those bits available, just run the script install Robin, and then it's going to prompt the required parameters. We'll also make sure that the cluster you have has all the ports open that is required for installing Robin, and there are more prerequisites mentioned on this link. Once you make sure that all the prerequisites are met, just press enter, and since it's an AWS environment, it is going to ask for the user's access key and secret key, so provide the access key and secret key. So once you provide access and secret key, it is going to deploy Robin on your OpenShift cluster, and also it will install the Robin client on this cluster. Now that you started the installation, go ahead and look at the documentation, and this documentation will help you on installing on OpenShift, and after installation how to set up the how to apply your license and set up your Robin client. So this document will help doing that. Now let's validate. Now that installation has gone through, apply your license, and you can see what all hosts are added to the Robin. As you can see, Robin is added on all the host which is part of this cluster. Robin also goes ahead and discovers if any drives are attached to any of these hosts, and it will create the storage pool out of these drives. For an example, here there are two drives which are attached to two of the hosts, and it has basically added those drives in the storage pool. If you need more drives to be attached on this host, then you can use the Robin utility to do that, called Robin drive create. For an example, if you want to create a drive with AWS, these are the valid AWS disk type. For an example, let's say we want to create a GP2 drive, and let's say size 200 gig, and then we want to attach a drive on one of these hosts. So this utility will basically go ahead and talk to AWS. It will create a drive, and it will attach that drive to this particular host, and it will add the drive to the Robin storage pool once this job is been completed. While this job is going on, we can check the storage class is set correctly. Let's see, when we install the Robin also installs few storage classes here in Robin Immediate, Robin REPL 3. More storage classes can be installed and configured by, see, yeah. Here are the other parameters and options that Robin storage class can be created with, and the description of how these options work. Let's see if the job is done. Okay, the job is completed, and if you see Robin drive list, now the third drive is added to the storage pool. Now that the Robin storage is installed and configured, now let's move back to installing Cloudpack for data. So as you can see, we need to make sure that node settings are correct on your cluster. And once those are validated, make sure the image registry is correctly set up so that it can hold all the images required for Cloudpack data services. Then basically go to the IBM cloud and get the entitlement key, so to use this Cloudpack data for data, and also install the CPD CLI, which is the installation utility required for Cloudpack for data. When you get the utility and enter those files, you also will have a file called repo.yaml. So update your repo.yaml as per the documentation with the username and also the API key or the entitlement key that you received from IBM Cloud. Once you install the CPD CLI and set up your repo.yaml file on your OpenShift cluster, let's see how to install the control plane using Robin storage. To install control plane, first you need to fetch the necessary deployment files for your control plane. For that, the command is cpdcl adm, provide the repo YAML file, and name of the control plane assembly is light, say light, and default architecture is x86 64. Pick if you have any other architecture for your nodes. And I want to install the Cloudpack data in namespace with call name, and then I want to apply these changes to my cluster. So it is going to get all the required YAML files on to install the control plane on this cluster. Let's say you agree to the license. So this is going to set up all the required settings, or I'm going to update all the SCCs on the OpenShift cluster. Once it has executed successfully, now you are ready to install your control plane. Before that, for control plane install, you also need to add the correct SCC policy for your admin role. Now that we have applied all the security settings required for installing control plane for Cloudpack for data, now let's go ahead and install the cloud control plane for Cloudpack for data. To do that, we will use the same install utility, and it will require the repo that we already have, repo.yaml file. Then we will have login to the storage class here, and it also requires the details of the images, or the internal registry. To get those details, you can use the commands provided here. So here, by running the appropriate command for your OpenShift version, you will be able to find the details of your registry information that is required for the install command. You can see. Now for this OpenShift cluster, we have the details available here. As you can see, I'm using the install utility and providing storage class as Robin. And this is the detail that I got from those running those commands for my information about internal registry. And also the username for the registry is cubeadmin, and the password is you will be able to get the password doing oc who am I dash t, and this password will be should be provided here as a password. Once you run this command, this install utility is going to talk to IBM registry and going to fetch all those images from IBM registry to your local registry, and it will start installing the Cloudpack data for control plane. Accept the license, and as you can see, it is going to the IBM repo and trying to fetch all these images from there to your transferring to your local registry. Now let's wait for this install to complete, and then we can see if the installation is successful after the script is finished executing. Now, as you can see, the installation of the control plane is finished successfully, and you can now access the UI for Cloudpack for data at this link. You can access the UI at this link, and the default username and password is admin, and password is password or lower caps. And once you log in, you will be able to browse the catalog here, and in this catalog you can see there are many services available, for an example Watson Assistant, Discovery, Knowledge Center, Watson Studio. But if you see what are available and enabled services, there is no enabled services. Now to enable the service, let's say for an example, if you want to enable Watson Studio, let's see what is required here. So you go back to the documentation, and here you see all the services available here, and here you see what is the requirement to install the Watson Studio. Now to install the Watson Studio, let's go back to the same OpenShift cluster, and here when we apply all the YAML files or the required settings for light, just do it for Watson Studio, and the assembly name for Watson Studio is WSL. So just apply all the configuration file for Watson Studio WSL. This is going to again fetch all the required deployment file from uh, IBM to local cluster. Let's wait while it's fetching. Okay, let's accept the user license. And as you can see, it is going to apply all the security settings on this cluster. Okay. Now, once this is applied, we go back to our command to install the WSL. So here in this case, we are, as you can see, we are using assembly WSL, and we are giving a storage class here as Robin immediate. We are giving Robin immediate because we need the volume. We need the volume which is not bound to any pod for Watson Studio Lab, and Robin immediate class is nothing but volume binding mode is immediate, so it doesn't wait for pod to consume that volume, and it can create it. In addition to that, we don't want to use the same immediate storage class for every other services. For every other services, we just want to use the default storage class Robin. To do that, we just create an override file, and in that override file we mention that the what should be the storage class for services like RabbitMQ and Redis HA. These are the basically bricks which are used to create a service out of it in the cloud pack for data. So we will use this override file as an input to our command as by giving dash dash override and name of the override file, and then we just run this command, and this command is going to again fetch all the required images from IBM Cloud to local image registry, and then start installing all the Helm charts and or operator required to get this whole Watson Studio Lab service up and running. Now you can see the install of WSL is completed here. It basically install all the different components, and it says completed successfully, and we can validate that all the volumes that is used for different instances of WSL is served by Robin here. And now let's go back to our UI. As you can see here UI, and then let's browse the catalog and then check the status if it's enabled. As you can see, the Watson Studio has been enabled here. All these services are enabled. This is part of the Watson Studio, the analytics and data governance. So it is also enabled by WSL service. Now a user can go in and start creating the project using the Watson Studio. Now let's look at what other services we can enable. Let's go to browser catalog, and let's see if you want to now install Watson machine learning. To install Watson machine learning, it's the same process as Watson Studio. You need to basically go to your OpenShift cluster, and this time use the assembly as for Watson machine learning, use WML, and apply the config for Watson machine learning. So yes, again this is going to apply all the required security context settings on the OpenShift cluster. Once this apply, now use the install command to install the assembly WML. Again, just use storage class as Robin, and here we will use Robin immediate, and use the override file WSL, use WML, and here is the override file content for Watson machine learning, which is having a storage class override for WML XCD and the custom security context settings that is required for both XCD and the RabbitMQ. So provide that override file and then just execute install command. accept the license, and again this is going to talk to IBM cloud to get all the required images and transfer it to your local OpenShift registry, and then it will start installing WhatsApp machine learning on this OpenShift cluster. As you can see, the WML service is installed successfully, and we can validate that all the volumes that is required for this service has been created by Robin here. Let's validate on UI. Let's go to catalog and check all the enabled services, and you can see watching machine learning is enabled now.